Hey, what's up? The All-Star game is about to start soon, and recently we found out about the LeBron lineup and the Kevin Durant lineup. We also found out about how Devin Booker is injured and how he has his replacement, and we're also probably going to briefly talk about a little bit of news that has happened around the league. So starting it off, we have the All-Star lineups. We have some snubs that people believe have happened. Who do you think, now that the lineups are in, who do you think is the biggest snub that has happened for this All-Star break?
I think there are a couple. At least on the Eastern Conference, I think it's probably Trae Young, because he's averaging, 27 points? Similar to the season Bradley Beal had last year. But knowing how many good players play in the Eastern Conference and that deserved it, I can see how this could happen. And in the West, I guess players like DeMar DeRozan. But in the Western Conference is a little bit tricky because two of the players were injured, meaning two other players who previously didn't make it had the chance to make the All-Star game.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, for me, of course, Trae Young is one of the biggest snubs. I will mention the Heat duo of Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. It has been up and down with the Heat, of course, but I think they should get a little bit of mention because the Heat, they have been starting to pick it. They have started to pick it up again. As you all know, they went on a little winning streak a while back. And for the Western Conference, DeMar DeRozan is one of the biggest snubs. Mike Conley got in, and he replaced Devin Booker, who is out. DeMar DeRozan, I feel like he should definitely, in my opinion, replace Mike Conley. Not only the fact that Utah, they already have two All-Stars. San Antonio, they are playing well. And DeRozan's game is so impressive. Plus, he averages better numbers across the board compared to Conley. But I'll also give De'Aaron Fox a nod as well. I think he should maybe get some consideration as well. We know it won't happen, that he'll make it. But I feel like it would not be that big of an argument if De'Aaron Fox made it as well, because he is averaging great numbers as well. That is all-star worthy.
I agree with your point with DeMar and him averaging better numbers than Conley. But I gotta say, I'm pretty happy for Conley at least making one All-Star game in his career. He's had many great seasons with Memphis, but he never was, he never got to the All-Star game. I don't know if he even was close, because there were so many good point guards in the Western Conference, but at least now, with a couple of players being injured, he finally got his chance. And I think, knowing how his season has went, looking back at last season, his first season with Utah, there's definitely a lot of growth, so he also deserved it, but I think DeMar DeRozan's probably the biggest snub out of both conferences.
Yeah. Oh, I also forgot to mention, I'll give Fred VanVleet some respect as well, because he's been killing it this season as well. He's definitely.
How do you feel about Toronto, both Toronto and Miami having none of the All-Stars there? That's crazy to think about it. Even last year, you probably couldn't think about that.
We were definitely not going to expect that. But yet again, I'm not that surprised, because both of the teams were really bad to start off the season, and first impressions, at least for a new season, that sometimes does carry over. But again, it is a little bit surprising that neither got in, but yet again, it is surprising that none got in because they're playing so good, but not surprising because they had a slow start and it took time for them to play better, get the numbers that they were supposed to be getting. But I guess we're gonna have to live with it now.
I remember last time when we discussed the lineups, and I asked the question if you think it would be surprising if more than one or two players that we had, either Julius Randle or Zach LaVine or even Nikola Vucevic, if at least two of the players got in. And would you look at that? All three made the All-Star game.
All three of them.
If you look at it, they did these are the players that actually deserved it the most. But for me, I thought the coaches would probably pick players that are more popular. But I guess this time the coaches really picked the correct players, in my opinion, the players who actually deserved it this year.
Yeah, I agree, and I think,
except for DeRozan. But hey, at least now we can't have a video of like players who have never made the All-Star game. You can't put Conley in there anymore because he made it now.
Hey, it's about time. I'm happy for Julius Randle as well, making his first All-Star game. He's been carrying me this fantasy season all year. So, of course, seeing him as an All-Star just makes me a lot more happy as well.
What do you think of Team LeBron, Team Durant, the draft, the team?
Jesus Christ, dude. Long story short for me, LeBron decided to summon all of the Avengers, and Kevin Durant just took comfort picks that he knew that were good. I thought the fact that everybody knew Kevin Durant was going to choose Kyrie first.
Yeah.
I 100% did not expect LeBron to pick Giannis first. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought he was going to pick maybe Luka or Stephen first, but he chose Giannis, and I'm like, okay. Kevin Durant will choose Kyrie Irving, as you all knew, and then LeBron chose Stephen Curry. LeBron chooses Stephen Curry. I knew it was over immediately. Then we see Kevin Durant choose, who was his second pick? Joel Embiid? Yeah. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Now Luka's going to join Team LeBron. Luka joins Team LeBron. And I'm thinking, okay, this can't be any worse. He already has amazing players. And then Jokic is still up. LeBron picks Jokic. And it's absolutely crazy looking at the lineups right now. I mean,
Durant was basically stuck. Like, if you have a teammate, you have to pick your teammate first. So he picked Kyrie, even though they're better players on the board technically. I mean, Kyrie is very talented, but I would probably pick Steph or Jokic or players like that over him. Since LeBron had the first pick, he had better chances. He got Giannis and Steph, and Durant was only locked in with Kyrie at that point.
I mean, we're not, of course, we're not players. We can't relate to what they're trying to do. But when you're in a locker room situation, morale matters. So I'm not even mad for KD picking Kyrie. But of course, they're all stars. The teams are probably a lot more, closer than we might think. But on paper, Team LeBron is one of the craziest all-star. It's a crazy all-star lineup. At least with the format of, the draft process. With these past few years.
I remember one of the last picks of the draft. It was LeBron, and he was saying, "I need a little bit of size."
Oh, sorry.
And it was Domantas Sabonis and Rudy Gobert.
He's how tall is he? 6'9", 6'10".
And what Charles Barkley said is, you picked the 6'2" player, meaning Sabonis, instead of a 7'5" player in Gobert. I thought that was hilarious. But yeah.
No more Utah slander. Jeez.
LeBron said people don't play with Utah.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I agree. Whenever I would play 2K, I would never pick Utah. But whenever I did play Utah with one game or the other game, out of random, no, it just wouldn't work out. I just couldn't make it work. But
well, guess what Quinn Snyder is gonna do now?
He's gonna coach.
He's gonna play LeBron 48 minutes.
He's gonna make LeBron work for his money over there.
He said he's been sluggish. He's been banged up. So I can see Quinn Snyder exploiting that.
Hey, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So okay, but another question with Utah and the All-Star selections. I mean the draft selections, of course, because they were picked last, and people have been doubting. People will still doubt them after the All-Star game, and they may do good in the All-Star game. Do you see this as a huge motivating factor for the Jazz to maybe manage to edge out, for example, the Clippers? Because they're going to probably take this All-Star thing as a huge motivation factor. They're going to take it throughout the season, and they're going to play with a chip on their shoulder, even if they're, let's say, the second seed or the third seed, because we still don't know when AD will come back. Do you think, because of this, their chances will probably be a lot bigger to reach the finals or the Western Conference Finals?
I mean, I know you're an all-star, right? But I think you never want to be picked last in anything. Who was the last pick? Was it Donovan or Rudy?
It was Gobert, but Donovan Mitchell was right before him.
I guess the reasoning is because Rudy Gobert isn't an offensive player, and he's a defensive player, and you don't really need defense in all-star games. That's the only reasoning I would see, because All-Star games are usually a lot of offense and a lot of flashiness. And what can Gobert do? He can't even post up, really.
My God. Plus, I heard that he gets cooked a lot when.
And he's gonna have to guard Joel Embiid, who dropped 40 on him.
Oh my God. Yeah.
No, but I can definitely see this as a motivating factor for players like Gobert, to maybe step up his game. Like knowing that, he was picked last, probably for some circumstances. Yeah, definitely. And maybe for Mike Conley, this can be not just motivation, but also like the people respect him, and this could like make him play better because he finally got what he deserved. So maybe it's like, for some players it's more like anger, like Gobert, and for Mike Conley it's more like happiness, in my opinion.
Hey, at least they are all-stars. So I would, like, if I were an all-star, I wouldn't be mad if I was picked last, because look at the competition that is in, look at the plethora of players that you are in the same, skill level. Let's say skill level as. So I wouldn't be mad if I was picked last, because everybody is an all-star in this case.
Yeah, but people will always remember you for being picked last. Because it's nationally televised. That's the only reasoning I could think of.
That's understandable. That's understandable as well.
But yeah, do you know how many teams have had 4 or more All-Stars?
How many teams have had 4 or more?
In 1 year.
If I remember correctly, the Atlanta Hawks team, when they had 50 wins, I think that's one of them. Jeff Teague, Kyle Korver, Paul Millsap, Al Horford. I think that was one. The other one, out of the top of my head, probably the San Antonio Spurs at some random point, when they had Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan, and probably somebody else. But other than that, no, I don't know.
Actually, it's occurred 8 times.
Really?
Yeah, most of the times has been like starting from 1960 something. I can't really find the exact names.
Probably one of the Boston teams.
I think the Celtics teams. They had 4 All-Stars at one point. I know they had McHale, Bird, Parrish, and
Havlicek, I think it was.
No, that's a different era. But also, I think from that era as well, they could have had 4 All-Stars. The team I remember is Ray Allen, Rondo, KG, and Pierce. That was one I also remember. But yeah, it's really rare for that to happen. I didn't even know it was that many though, but it's still rare. And having 3 this year with the Utah Jazz, I think it's good for them. Even though they were picked last and Conley got in on like a last call, they're still there. So that's cool.
Hey, if you're an all-star, you're an all-star. I'm glad at least we see a couple first-time all-stars this season. We have Jaylen Brown, we have Zach LaVine, we have Julius Randle, and now Mike Conley. It's just
Zion.
And Zion, Jesus Christ. Zion's probably going to be an all-star for the next 10 years if he plays the way he has. I mean, Zion is a different breed, okay? He's a different breed right now. But
he's been doing great like past couple of weeks.
Of course. It's still absurd that the drive and motor he has, with the skill and his size, it's absurd that this kid is only 20 to think about that.
Another question I just thought of: who do you think is probably the next players who are going to be first-time All-Stars in the league?
Next players who will be first-time All-Stars in the league. I think Jamal Murray has potential next year.
Oh, nice choice.
Jamal Murray could be. I'd definitely put in Fred VanVleet. Wait, Fred VanVleet, was he an All-Star? No.
Nope.
Fred VanVleet, I'll definitely put him up there. If there's anybody else,
probably Fox as well, maybe.
Ayton. I'll give De'Aaron Fox. I think De'Aaron
Ayton
Fox
has a lot of competition, but like he could be All-Star worthy if he has a better season.
Also, if this player keeps it up, I'll throw in LaMelo Ball as well. When he's been starting, I think he's averaging excellent numbers, like 20-something points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, decent enough efficiency. Next year, when he's even better, he'll put a little bit of weight on him. He'll get a little bit more experience. I think he could potentially actually become an all-star next season. That's if he plays out of his mind, and maybe some of the guards in the East struggle a little bit. But that's just it.
Also, the two highest most improved player candidates, Wood and Grant. Like, if they still played right now, I know Wood could have definitely given at least some kind of competition to the other players, but I think if they continue to the trend they have, I think they can make it next year. Especially if like stuff happens like this year, or like the players who actually deserved it got in. Like, they actually have a chance, and it's gonna be like interesting to see their development.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, should we move on to the mid-season report?
Yeah, I guess so. There's been a few things that's been going on through the midseason. Feel like it's appropriate to talk a little bit about that because we are officially halfway through. So, what should we start with?
I guess we can start with, like, if you look at the standings, like, which teams have surprised you, which players have surprised you with the way they've played.
Okay, I'm gonna start. So, there's both good and bad surprises. Of course, the good surprise would be Utah and their resurgence, because last year they were somewhat disappointing, knowing that Mike Conley wasn't that good. Now we have, Bogdanovic, who has been struggling a bit, but Mike Conley's playing good, Donovan Mitchell's playing good, role players are playing good. Like, they have a nice unit, they have great ball movement. It is a little bit surprising that they've managed to keep it up as of late, because they are going to probably be a force, but people are still doubting them, saying they'll get out the first round. That is understandable when you choked a 3-1 lead and you haven't had that much success. But other than that, some other surprises would definitely be the Sixers. They have been playing really well. The New York Knicks are one of the biggest surprises. How they have just suddenly become one of the worst teams in the league to a middle of the pack team who can actually make a push for the playoffs.
Currently fifth. And another team, I'm going to be honest, I did not expect them to be this bad. I'm going to say the Houston Rockets. Yes, Christian Wood has been injured, but Houston, they lost 13 in a row at one point. Yeah. Now they're on a 13-game losing streak.
I mean, come on, man. I did not expect that, at least. But I'm definitely going to say I'm glad Phoenix are doing good. For me, it's not that surprising. I wrote a little bit about them, about how Chris Paul, no matter where he goes, he'll put somebody to a playoff contender. Because you rarely see a player of Chris Paul's skill set. His mid-range is amazing. And I think I remember somebody quoted him, he is one of the best leaders, or the best leader in the NBA.
Yeah.
So that is, of course, really understandable. And Phoenix has 2 All-Stars, what else can I say? But yeah, other than those teams, there isn't much for me to say.
Yeah, I think one of the things, or one of the reasons why Utah is so good is I think they've been pretty healthy most of the year. Like, one of the only teams that hasn't had like a COVID outbreak, has been healthy all the time. I know Conley was injured for a little bit, but even then, like, they're pretty deep, and even when Conley was out, they just slotted Mitchell at point guard, and they still played great. So I think that's the good thing about Utah, is that they're deep, well coached, and even when like one of their top guys is out, they still continue to play consistently. And with Philadelphia, I mean, they've had all of their COVID stuff, and even then, like, their first seed, I think Doc Rivers has found like a new way of playing Embiid. Simmons I think he's currently getting a lot of Defensive Player of the Year. People are saying he could get Defensive Player of the Year.
He has been excellent this season on defense. It is
because he can guard 1 through 5.
I mean,
like,
yeah.
Any point, like he could be a little bit slow on guarding like fast point guards, but he is fast himself with the ball. He's tall enough to technically like guard centers as well.
Yeah. Also, did you hear? I think it was something about Jamal Murray being a top 5 in the Defensive Player of the Year.
I saw that. I don't know if that was like a mistake or something, but I was very confused.
I'm like, I saw that and I thought somebody's tripping or something like that. But I haven't watched that much of Jamal Murray, but I know he's been up and down, as he always has been these past few years. Defensive Player of the Year in Jamal Murray? Nah.
He couldn't even defend his nudes from being leaked online. How can he get?
My God.
How can he get Defensive Player of the Year, man?
Oh my God.
You got to start off with one thing and then move on to the next.
All right. Any disappointing players that has happened, or any disappointing players that you didn't expect to play as bad as they have?
This is an interesting topic. Blake Griffin.
Off the top of my head, definitely Blake Griffin. Yep, he is. It's crazy to see how far athleticism can actually take you, because he's barely dunked the ball this season, and he recently got his buyout with the Pistons. So now the Nets are rumored to get him. But to be honest, I do not know if the Nets are the best option to get him.
What if he's faking it?
Yeah.
What if he purposefully didn't dunk so he wouldn't get injured, and now he's gonna turn into the prime Griffin with 3-point shooting and passing?
No. I refuse. I refuse.
That one season with Detroit, when he made All-Stars,
career year.
Like he was really good.
He was
really
shooting
good.
Excellent from the 3-point line. I remember when he was with the Clippers at one point, from hitting the side of the backboard to now cashing threes and doing good dribble moves. So
feels like the Clippers are known for hitting the side of the backboard.
Oh my God! Yep. I expected a way off P joke to at least show up one time.
Yeah, once an episode is like our average now.
Oh my God! I mean,
but if you go ahead.
So there's been so much Clippers slander from last season that they're actually an under the radar team this season, because I don't hear many people talk about the Clippers now.
They're fourth now. I mean, you know, they've done okay, but it's not like they've gone much like beyond boundaries. Like they've done as expected, really.
Yeah.
They haven't been amazing, but they also haven't been bad. And right now they're sitting in fourth place, half a game behind the Lakers, who are third, but they've been missing AD. I think for them right now they're sitting in a pretty decent spot. Like with the surprises, you also mentioned Phoenix. I mean, they've also been pretty healthy most of the year, and they have a nice squad. And I think any team who faces them in the first round are gonna have problems. They actually have so many teams that deserve to at least get to the semis that it's crazy.
In the Western Conference, at least.
Yeah, like Portland and Denver as well. Like the way Portland has been playing, even without their two of their three best players, they're the 5th seed right now, and with both of those guys coming back, I can't really see them getting bounced in the first round if they like incorporate them into the system they've been playing.
Yeah. This just gets me even more excited for the play-in tournament that's gonna happen. The play-in tournament is gonna be an all-out war for the playoffs. I'm gonna be so hyped for the play-in tournament, because they're gonna be 4 teams who are all, they're valid enough to be counted as an 8 seed. But knowing that there's somebody who's going to be an 11 seed or 12 seed that you can argue should have a case to be a good playoff team, that are going to make the playoffs. It is crazy to think about it like that.
Right now, the way it looks is kind of what I actually expected to be come end of the season. Right now, 7 through 10 in the East is Charlotte, Toronto, Chicago, Indiana. And the teams right under are teams that are, used to not being in the playoffs. I guess we're the only 2 teams that could try to make the play-in tournament, Atlanta and Washington. Washington has been trending upwards recently. Atlanta has been with a lot of injuries, but once healthy, maybe. But I think Charlotte definitely deserves to at least try to get in the playoffs. Currently New York are 5th, but I think them as well. I think Chicago surprised me a little bit. Even though they are 16 and 18, under 500, they're still competing for a playoff spot. And with the West, we have San Antonio, who's 7th, and we have New Orleans, who are 11th. And I think there is a huge difference there, because I don't know, like I have not watched a lot of San Antonio, but I feel like the Pelicans should get a chance, and since they're 11th now, they wouldn't even get a chance for the play-in tournament.
What spot is
really good.
What spot is Sacramento?
13th.
Oh Jesus. Okay. Are they
But
that far behind?
Yeah, they've been pretty bad the past couple of weeks. They're 2-8 in their last 10.
Oh my God.
That's why people have been like heating up with all the trade discussions with Barnes and Bagley. If at the start they were kind of expected to make the play-in at least, they've gone down.
They've gone downhill ever since
they've
gone downhill ever since they fired Dave Yeager. And I have expressed my frustrations with Luke Walton and how he has managed to coach a couple of how some of his decisions are not the best in the world. I'm saying it like that.
Yeah, I guess the only bright spot you could think of is De'Aaron Fox, as well as Tyrese Haliburton.
I'm also giving Rashawn Holmes some credit as well. I'm really impressed with Rashawn Holmes.
If I was Sacramento, even though there is nothing really to reset, I would hit the reset button and trade all the players that have any value. Keep Haliburton and Fox mainly, because he's maxed out and he's not the guy who's gonna take you to a championship. Not even close.
You think he should be? I think it's given now that he's more like a JJ Redick type of player. Go off screens, hit threes, and at time you can create for yourself as well.
I think JJ can't really create for himself, but
meaning with create for himself, run off screens, hit threes like that.
Yeah. But
also, I'm saying it right now. I feel so bad for Minnesota. I feel so bad for them because after only 10 games, people already knew that they were people knew that okay, they're gonna be one of the worst teams in the league after only 10 games. It is. I feel bad for Minnesota, man. I wish they had. I wish they'd be a little bit more successful, but as a franchise, they never have been. When you say it like that, since Kevin Garnett played there, and recently I found out he was trying to buy the team, couldn't even buy the team. So that is a little bit crazy as well. But
is it because the owners didn't want to give it, or what?
I think it's something about the owners. But Kevin Garnett, he posted this long, this message with the situation and stuff like that, how he's no longer going to pursue buying or trying to own the Minnesota Timberwolves now.
That's sad.
That sucks because he is one of the only players to put them in relevancy. So yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with D'Lo. To be honest, I don't know if he's a fit in Minnesota, but with Cat, I feel bad for him as well because he's been a part of a losing culture for all these years. Yes, he was with Jimmy Butler, but we all knew how that turned out. But yeah, we also have another part to talk about which is biggest questions around the league. So
I wanna before we do that, I was still thinking about the Kevin Garnett thing.
Okay.
About how many owners are actually involved with all the things, and some of the people I can think of is definitely Mark Cuban, and maybe Steve Ballmer. Not with the way he's involved, but the way he shows passion. I think Kevin Garnett could probably do both. He could be passionate plus maybe get involved with trades and stuff like that. I think that would be a really good thing for Minnesota, and it's really, really sad that stuff like this has happened, where he can't even buy the team.
It is
even
sad
if he wanted to.
Because this also just made me remember James Dolan, sell the Knicks, please. Sell the New York Knicks, James Dolan. I'm saying this right now.
Oh, what are Knicks fans thinking right now? Knicks are doing good.
Yeah, Knicks are doing good, but we haven't seen or heard anything from James Dolan. And remember, Stephen A. Smith was giving other people credit, not James Dolan. So
he's just the owner. He's there to make money.
He is the owner, but I remember, man, I still think the damage has been done with James Dolan. I still think he should sell the team, personally.
That's true. Well, another quick question before we move on to, or I guess we can actually include it with the biggest questions around the league, regarding trades that should happen in the trade deadline. And I want to start off with a trade that probably won't happen, but how long do you think until Cat asks for a trade out of Minnesota?
Man, how do you know how long when his contract is over?
I think 3 more years, I'm guessing.
Does he have a clause? Does he have a player clause?
Like player option?
Player option, team option?
I do not know the specifics, but I think he's still locked up for a couple years.
Okay.
And how long can you live in mediocrity? I know Beal is accustomed to it, but
Beal is quite frankly used to it at this point. But Cat, the good thing, at least about both of their Cat and Minnesota situation, Cat is still young. He can still, try and help them figure it out. But none of that will matter if management doesn't manage to do their job properly.
Yeah, he's just wasting his prime while management isn't doing anything.
Yeah, if they're not going to do anything, I'd ask for a trade I'd ask for a trade in your last year of your option because you're starting to enter your prime years. And remember that the team drafted you. You've done so much for them. At least give them something back. And it will also probably benefit the teams who may not afford all the cap in the world, but they can release some of it by trading a huge contract and other stuff. So I'd wait
Towns
until
is a lucrative player.
He is a very lucrative player, so there's going to have to be a lot. But remember, James Harden got traded for all those. He got traded for, I think it was Jeremy Lamb, all those picks, all those players. And he ended up becoming a star in Houston. Maybe somebody that trades for Cat will become a huge, huge star in the league. Who could trade for him in a few years? I don't know how the league will be. Nobody knows, but if Karl-Anthony Towns is still fed up and he truly wants to win a championship and Minnesota has not done anything in 2 to 3 years, I would ask for a trade in my last year or the second to last year of my contract.
Yeah, because right now it's looking grim. I mean, he has had a sad past couple of years with all the deaths in his family, but at some point you gotta say enough is enough. Like, even though they did trade all of those picks to get Deangelo Russell, but I don't know how many games they played together this year, but it just doesn't look like it's working out.
If Minnesota do decide to hit the reset, where do you think Deangelo Russell could go then?
Oh boy. I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know if I can see Deangelo Russell being a player on a very top tier team. I can see him being in teams that are trying to find their way to a playoff spot, but I don't know. I think all the good teams right now, they have established great point guards, except for maybe the Lakers. Well, if you count James as a point guard, then sure, they do have it. But Schroeder, he was a sixth man before. He's not like a top tier point guard, but he's still pretty good. With Russell, I think I kind of want to put him at the same category as Schroeder in terms of value. And he's just not good on the defensive end, and sometimes he goes really cold from the field. But when he gets hot, he gets hot. But I don't know, which teams could use him. It just has to depend on the situation. As for now, currently, it would probably be teams that are trying to get in, maybe New York. I can imagine New York getting them, but they have Derrick Rose at the moment, so I don't know.
That is a tough question. We have anything else we had in this mid-season
Yeah,
report?
we can talk about injuries and when the players come back. How do we see things rolling? Perhaps we have Kevin Durant, who's missed the past 2 weeks, I think, and he's missed a couple of interesting matchups against the Lakers, the Clippers. So we didn't really see those great matchups in full strength. And I think the real question is, when all three of the guys in Brooklyn are healthy, do they have a chance? Is their offensive firepower enough to, how should I say it?
Is it enough to get them to the finals? Is that what you're trying to get here? Win it all?
Is their firepower enough to negate the defensive woes that they have?
Like that, it is. Mostly, I would definitely say, in this case, It should be yes, because DeAndre Jordan plays really well defensively in the playoffs, I've learned. And when you have the experience of 2 MVP candidates, plus 2 of them are MVP champions, some of them are in MVP conversations this year, they know what it takes to win in the playoffs. So I definitely see it should be enough for them to, to propel them, at least. But
because when 3 of them are on the court, they're absolutely deadly on offense. But I guess the only problem right now is just defense.
Defense
and
is.
If they can fix it.
Defense.
Will Griffin fix it? I don't know.
No, I definitely don't think
Probably
Griffin
not.
will fix it. He'll make it, in my opinion, worse.
Where would Griffin even play?
Do you think he should maybe do? What was Blake Griffin's situation again? It was a buyout, right? So that means, is it that any team can give him money, or do they have to pay him the amount that his contract was in?
That's his waiver. Like if he can get picked up right now for the money he is owed, or once he clears waivers on, I think like this night, he could actually decide tonight. He can clear all the waivers, and then he can decide himself where he wants to go.
For any amount of money?
Yeah, like which team offers him, he can decide if he wants to go there or there.
Do you think he should do a DeMarcus Cousins and get a $5 million deal to one of the best teams in the league? Do you think that's what he's trying to do with Brooklyn?
I don't really think his value is that high at this point. Like he's been pretty abysmal.
He has been really bad.
I think he will get some kind of offers because it's a guy who is averaging 13 points, 4 assists. He has been regressing, but he's still, even if you have to play him as a role player, he's still pretty good. So, and if he's for that cheap, why not pick him up? I just don't see how Brooklyn could use him in their lineup. They'd have to move Joe Harris to the bench or have Brick Griffin come off the bench. Him play backup center.
It is a tough situation, at least with Brooklyn Nets and Blake Griffin, but where else do you think he could go? I mean, Miami has been heavily
rumored. I know Miami was there. And there was one team from the Western Conference, Golden State.
If Blake Griffin becomes
a
spot-up player and he still, shows the glimpses he had when he was All-Star in Detroit, sheesh. And when Klay Thompson comes back as well.
He's probably going to be signed for like a 1-year deal, so it's probably like a make it or break it situation for him. Like prove that you're still worth, or have a bad like second stretch to your year and you're probably gone.
Yeah.
So it's tough. But also for Brooklyn, they have Nicholas Claxton, who's been picking up recently. He's been playing really good. I think Dinwiddie said he's the second most talented player on Brooklyn, behind Kevin Durant. And that's a bold statement. That is knowing that Kyrie and James is there.
That is a huge statement. Hey, but yet again, there have been many cases where players say, "Oh, he's really talented," but they haven't been able to do much in the league.
Like Thon Maker. I think Giannis said Thon was more talented when he entered the league.
Oh
Where's
my
Thon right
God.
now? Cleveland.
Oh no.
Not getting any minutes.
I remember, man, Thon Maker is one of the biggest what ifs I have ever seen. One of the biggest what ifs.
I think he got drafted pretty high, so the expectations were.
Yeah, the expectations were high, but he just didn't do much.
He had his moments with like blocking, but other than that, I don't know.
Nah, there wasn't much, man.
Other teams, I guess, that have had injuries, we already talked about, is the Portland Trailblazers. Like, they've been doing really good without McCollum and Nurkic, mainly because players like Gary Trent, Canner, and Derrick Jones Jr. have stepped up. How do you think the Blazers will do when these players are back and they have to like go back to their old ways?
Of course, it is a given that they will. It will take some time to incorporate them back in, because me and you are both Celtics fans. We knew that the Celtics were going to drop a few games because when Kemba Walker came back, it was going to take time to incorporate him in the offense. I was still really mad that he played really badly for the amount that he did, but he's starting to pick it up again, so I'm happy. But anyway, I learned today that CJ McCollum can now do full contact, He can do contact in practices. So it's a step up from there. But if I'm the Trailblazers, I would not rush CJ McCollum at all. He is, how old is he? 29? 30?
Could be. They also have a good record, so that's also a reason
they have
for
a
not
good
rushing
record,
back.
so I don't see why they should force him in. Because when you remember with Golden State and Kevin Durant, when Kevin Durant had that huge Achilles injury, made him play with the Achilles, ended up injuring it, missed the entire next season. With somebody who is a great scorer as McCollum, he was averaging 27 at one point. I would not rush this, because not only are Portland playing good, we know what McCollum is capable of, and when he comes back with Damian Lillard, they should be able to pick it up. But another topic with Portland, Stephen A. Smith recently said that he doesn't think Lillard and McCollum is enough. What do you think about that?
I kind of agree, because just the two of them are not enough, but they actually have some nice complementary pieces this year. With Nurkic, with Kanter. I like Kanter being back. I think Portland for him is like the best place. I don't really think any other places he's been has been as good as Portland. I think it's like the perfect fit for him. As well as Derek Jones, I feel like he has a role there. He knows his role. But the guy who's going to take the biggest hit once CJ returns is probably going to be Gary Trent. He's been playing out of his mind being a starter right now. So it just tells you, like, if you get the chance, there are players who are going to step up, and Portland has those kind of players. So I do agree with the fact that just the two of them is not enough, but I feel like this year they have players who have proven that they are good, that they can help a team like Portland. So damn, the Western Conference, they're stacked. Like the top 6 teams right now, any one of those teams I can see being in the second round, and oh boy, the first round is going to be a bloodbath.
It's gonna be like a Hunger Games setup where, you know, only the strong survive, but it's not always that the guy who is expected to win may win the entire thing. Saying it like that. But
That's true.
what other players were we gonna talk about for this?
There are some players that are rumored to be traded. Or we can leave like the most rumored players for the trade deadline episode, but a player who hasn't been playing for a while is Andre Drummond. And what do you think of his situation, you know, being sat, he can't play, like there's nothing really happening right now. He hasn't been traded for like the while he's been sitting out, so what do you think of that situation?
I think Cleveland should try just get rid of him as fast as they can. Not only is it decreasing Drummond's trade value because, you know, he's not getting game time, he may be a bit rusty when he comes back. When they do find a trade partner for Drummond, they can get the assets they need, and they can incorporate them into the Cavs offense or Cavs defense faster. AKA, they get the players from the Drummond trade, they get them on the roster, they get to play whoever they need, and then they can go from there. If they get that faster, we get to see what what the Cleveland situation actually could happen into. So I say trade Drummond as fast as you can. I've heard that they want to trade him to Toronto. I forgot a few other teams, but I heard Toronto was a big rumor for them at least.
Yeah, that's true. I just realized one of the things. Like I said, I haven't watched a lot of San Antonio, and it's really surprising for me that they're 7th place currently. But I just realized, did you know that Lamarcus Aldridge is coming off the bench? They have Jakob Poeltl starting at center, and they have Lamarcus coming off the bench. So that's when I saw that and the change of roles for them. I think that was really interesting for me. They're going younger, I think, as they should, and for them it's working out. Jakob has been playing pretty good.
Man, I think Lamarcus Aldridge should then just dip, go to a championship team, and try and win from there.
Portland? He said he wanted to go back.
Wow, I remember there's this one stat where it was Lamarcus Aldridge, Damian Lillard, and one more player I forgot off the top of my head. I think it was Yeah.
Is it a Portland player?
Portland player. They had this crazy record when Lamarcus Aldridge, Damian Lillard, and one more player, when they were playing together, their record was crazy. It's like something like 50 wins, I believe. Something in that retrospect.
Wesley Matthews?
I forgot, no, but it was those two and another guy. Crazy good record. Of course, Lamarcus Aldridge is way past his prime, but we know he wants to go back to Portland, but where else do you see he could go to? Where do you see his skill set would be fit?
I think right now he could be a good mentor, and I think being a backup player is probably good for him. Like, we don't really see many backup bigs who get you buckets, so that would be something new for the league, I guess. Players who could actually like take a lesson or two from Lamarcus is probably a player like DeAndre Ayton, maybe. Like, he could definitely learn the ways of Lamarcus Aldridge. So maybe once his contract ends, if they get him as like a backup player, that would be phenomenal, I think. But I don't really think it could happen because I think Lamarcus still has a lot of value.
I don't think he should be. He's not a mentor 100%. He's not like Udonis Haslem yet.
No.
No, he's
but
not.
Like more mentor than actual, like actually somebody who provides you stats. Like he can play like 15 minutes off the bench, but his main role is to help Ayton improve, perhaps.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because DeAndre Ayton, he is at least playing with Chris Paul. DeAndre Ayton is the center that has had the most attempts shooting mid-range jumpers Chris Paul has ever played with. So if he gets that improvement with Lamarcus Aldridge, who has a really smooth touch around the rim, yeah, Lamarcus Aldridge could potentially propel DeAndre Ayton to that next level, if that would happen.
Yeah, but I've also heard San Antonio's looking for trades for like their veteran players that are on last year contracts. I think that is Rudy Gay, Lamarcus, DeMar. So they're going pretty young, and it's going to be interesting to watch if this has any impact on their seed. If this means they're kind of going for a rebuild, but also trying to stay competitive enough to make the play-in. So I think once the trade deadline is going to come up, this is going to be a very interesting topic.
It's going to be interesting because DeMar is still exceptional, even though he wasn't an all-star. He is still amazing. So DeMar trade rumors where he could go, we don't know.
I think any team could use him. Like if he adjusts their plans or whatever the team wants him to do, because he can basically do anything. If teams let him shoot threes, I think he's probably gonna start shooting them. I don't know really about the percentage he's gonna shoot them, but I think he's a capable shooter. It's just about really just shooting it.
Yeah.
Well, I have one more topic written down. I think we're obviously gonna have a lot to say about this because we are Celtics fans. What do you think of the Celtics roster right now as it's constructed, and what changes should happen come like the second part of the season?
This is tough because there's been so many ups and downs with Boston so far. Kemba is up and down. Jalen has been a little bit up and down. Jason has been up and down. But what I think mostly we need is size, personally, because we already have a big wing in Jason Tatum who can create his own shot. But I feel like if we get a center who is consistently good enough to stretch the floor, somebody who can rebound well, but Tristan Thompson is good. Don't get me wrong, he is okay, but I don't think he is enough. I think if we use the money that we have, if we could use it on somebody like Nikola Vucevic, I think he would be the perfect fit. But I don't think Orlando wants to let him go. But with our trade exception, I say we use it on Vucevic. But if we can't orchestrate a trade, although I think we should, Danny Ainge needs to pull the plug on a trade. I say we should probably improve some of our depth, some of our bench depth, because our bench depth has been lacking.
Yeah, there have been a lot of rumors, a lot of things, a lot of players that have been rumored to go to Boston with like trades with Danny. off the top of my head. I just read news about also Larry Nance getting traction and Boston being one of the teams that are looking at him. He's a good defender. He does shoot, but will it be able to fix our problems? Like, he can definitely start at power forward, and he would be a great fit, but I don't know if it's enough. But also a thing is that Marcus Smart has been injured, so we don't know how this team really plays when everybody's healthy, because we really haven't had many games like this.
Yeah,
Everybody's been injured. But yeah, Marvin Bagley, Nemanja Bjelica, even Jeremy Grant, Harrison Barnes, players like that, all rumored to potentially be candidates to go to Boston. So Danny Ainge is definitely listening to trade offers. Trade deadline is a perfect spot to go for trades because it's a time where the value for players is the lowest. So, I mean, if a trade happens, it happens, but if it doesn't happen, the fans are going to be really, really mad, because as the team is constructed right now, even he said it, that this team is not capable of winning the championship, which is a kind of a big red flag if your general manager says it, don't you think?
It is a huge red flag, because when we're looking at Boston and when we're looking at a team such as Brooklyn, I'm noticing that Brooklyn, they do a lot of, although they have all these ISO players, they do some ball movement that is decent enough as well. Boston has been stuck on ISO, and I've seen it so many times where we have just pure ISO, and it ticks me off a little bit, because that's not the key to win. Because not only, let's say Jason Tatum's struggling from the field, right? He takes all those shots. Nobody else can get into a rhythm because of that. If they're open from the corner, Jason Tatum could take a fadeaway over two people, or he could swing it to the corner, let them take a wide open shot that is a better shot than a fadeaway over two people. Now, I remember that Iman Shumpert once said when he was playing with the Knicks and Melo, Shumpert was wide open for a shot. It was going down to the buzzer at halftime. Melo instead took a fadeaway over two people. Shumpert was mad, but Melo said, I work on that. I practice on this. I don't know if it's enough with Jason Tatum yet, but he has proven countless times that he can hit those shots. But we've learned with Melo that he has not been able to win a championship because of playing like that. We saw it with the Knicks. It wasn't enough. So I say
it almost worked for Houston.
Almost worked from Houston, yes, but I say at least try and swing the ball a little bit more, because when you're doing all this ISO stuff, players are standing still. Not only does the defense, they don't have to work as much. They can easily just get a transition bucket right off rip, because Boston has struggled at transition at times because of that.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, but I think the reason why he's taking those shots is because literally nobody can hit a bucket for Boston outside of their top three players in Kemba, Jalen, and Jason. You give the ball to players like Javonte, Shemi, Nesmith. They are capable shooters, but they're not shooting good enough for them to be good shooters. So I think that's the reason why all of our good players are taking all these contested shots, which is worrying and really frustrating, but that's the team Danny has constructed, and right now it's just not working. So either somebody has to step up, or
if there's somebody, I'm saying it right now, I want Vucevic. Not only can he spot up, he can also somewhat create his own shot and do good enough stuff in the post, and he has a good mid-range jumper. Plus he can catch rebounds, so I don't see why he wouldn't be one of the best fits, but it's all up to Danny at this point.
The only player I would be sad most likely going is Robert Williams, because I don't really see him being in Boston if we go for a trade like Vucevic, because Robert Williams is definitely a really valuable asset at this point, and I kind of want to see him succeed in Boston being starting center, just because we drafted him, and it's cool having your own player that you drafted starting to blossom and play well. I think right now he isn't playing much minutes because he has a lot of lingering injuries, and they want to keep him on the safe side. But I feel like if he does play more minutes, even gets more experience, and boy, like when we see him on the floor these past couple of games, like he's been tremendous. So he's really, really interesting to watch, and like he throws down everything.
It's absurd the amount of athleticism Robert Williams has, and it's crazy because I remember we were watching him in the playoffs. He would do this. He did this. Remember the put back dunk he did, and then he just landed on his back. He would have those.
He has to work on that.
He would have those kinds of huge injury issues, which is worrying. But if he could control that, doesn't foul as much because he is block happy. We're saying it straight up. He is block happy. But who wouldn't be when you're that athletic? You can jump that high and do all that stuff. Go for the highlight plays. But if he becomes more disciplined at defense, can land better, not be as over the top with dunking. I'm not saying he shouldn't, but if he doesn't get as injury prone, he is going to be a huge weapon for so many teams. But if let's say
hopefully Boston.
Hopefully Boston. But let's say he does get traded. Do you think he'll have a similar? Let's compare him to Jarrett Allen, a young athletic center. He's popping off for Cleveland right now. Do you think Robert Williams can have a similar breakthrough if he goes to a different team?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's more of a Clint Capella player. I think Jarrett Allen, he has, some decent post moves. With Robert, he really doesn't do post. He just does lobs and easy layups. He doesn't really play from the post game, but he gets open a lot of times, so that's why he gets all those easy buckets. So I'd rather compare him to Capella. And, even Capella had a great season with Houston after Howard left, so I think it's just about opportunity, really.
Definitely.
Stuff like that. So yeah, I'm excited for the next episode of the podcast where we're probably going to discuss the team's needs right before the trade deadline, and it's going to be crazy because obviously a lot of teams need improvement and a lot of teams are looking to get rid of their players, and I think it's going to be interesting times. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because this trade deadline will make or break at least a couple of the teams in the league so far.
Yeah, so I'm really hopeful for that episode.
All right. Hey, let us know if you guys would do anything differently, at least what we've been talking about. If you're the Boston Celtics, what would you do? If you're Blake Griffin, if you're Andre Drummond, what would you do?